Hey Marco, let's have AI do our project.
That's a great idea. Let's do that with customer.
Yeah, I have a customer in mind, ISS.
And let's have actually a real team.
Yeah, and let's give them all the AI tools they want to have.
That's what we're gonna do.
That will be interesting.
How about if we could create software in one day?
That's a nice idea. Is it possible?
Is it possible? I think the fact that we are just asking that is interesting and intriguing.
And would it be possible with the old software methods? Like when thinking about waterfall, within one day you would have to do the design and then do the workshops and then do the prototyping and then actual working and so on. Is there something you can take out?
Yeah, now are they all like necessary today? I think that's one of the things that we've been pondering a lot.
Yeah, and also trying out.
Yeah. What do you think, from your point of view, what do you think that we have discovered?
I think we have discovered that this really is possible, and we can make software within one day and even multiple things in one day. Calling it software, are there pieces of software, or are there whole projects or whatever? Those are also changing a bit. But yeah, we definitely can do software in one day.
Which is kind of a crazy thing to say.
Yeah, I have done iPhone application in 2 hours. So
for yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, of course, the easiest way. Many people have already tried that. Okay, let's take ChatGPT and say to it, this is how I made my application. I took out ChatGPT and said that my dream has been to create an iPhone application. How to make it? And it started from there. It took me forward. Of course, I have a history as a programmer. I hadn't done any applications before for the phones, but I had done plenty of software before, so I knew the basic things and was able to tell that, okay, I know this one when it told me that you need to have this kind of editor and this and that, and it was immediately obvious to me, okay, and then I was able to start continuing the discussion, okay, now I installed that, what next, and so on. But would that work for a team?
Well, I think that's a different level of question, because I also tried those kind of small things, or I felt that they're rather small things, and okay, is it a toy, or could we actually use it for something real? And I think that I think that was one of the discoveries that I also felt, that we first started actually trying ourselves, playing around with those toys as individuals with the team. We have 7 members in the team. And when we actually started realizing that this is not about individual productivity, and I can play only that much with myself, with the tool within alone, but when we actually took that with the team context, I felt that we went to a very different level.
Yeah, it was like when we started, the actual premise of the project was that start doing a software project, use whatever AI tools you can. Yeah. And of course, when people hear that for the first time, they said, okay, now I can take Copilot and ask it to do stuff. I can take ChatGPT and ask it to give me code, and that's it. I can create things immediately. But it was quite a little bit different than that. So it was first tries, yeah, of course, interesting, but it went to the interesting direction.
Yeah, I somehow realized that at least the first kind of things that we did as a team, of course, we discussed quite a bit about what to build, because we also we got help to that question with the tools. And then like how to go about it. And I remember we had like 1 15 minutes that everybody was kind of trying that. I would like to do so and so. I would like to start from the data model. I would like to start from the application. I would like to start from the user interface. And then we came together and like chose one path. And later on we actually switched that path. So we start with the data model, and then we're like, oh, let's jump to the UI then. So we went like back and forth. But very interesting thing that happened was that since we were a team, we had all the perspectives looking at like single computer at the same time. And then realizing that, okay, let's drive it like so together. And then like feeding each other, and basically the AI then doing a lot of the heavy lifting for us.
Yeah, it was like one thing that crossed my mind at one point when we were discussing the basic and background of thing was like the term hive mind. It was like we were a little bit like of ants. When you're thinking about ants, single ant is doing something. They know what they are doing. They are doing their small thing and stuff. But then when you combine lots of ants and they start building something great together. And I wouldn't say, of course, that we as a programmers are like stupid ants or whatever, but like we are parts of the bigger entity and building together new kinds of things. Not unlike earlier software projects, of course, we have had teams all the time and we have had things, but now that we have like new superpowers with our thinking, with our communication and lots of speed around, that makes it possible that we are like thinking as one mind.
Yeah, and especially when we also had the customer in the team. I felt that was like extraordinary, because at least when we used to do agile without the AI, we had sometimes, at least I have had troubles like having the customer like being engaged for longer periods, because it's like, okay, just show me the thing and then I can give you feedback about the thing. I mean, the user interface or the application as such, but not that much of the technical details. Yeah. But now we were actually operating a bit higher level as a group, as a hive mind, as you put it.
So, for example, comparing to, let's say, previous world or current world, whatever it is, the usual procedure when you started to do prototyping was that, okay, you agreed with the customer, now we start to do prototyping. You booked some workshops. Of course, everyone has busy calendars, so they were like once a week or two. And then you had 6 weeks of calendar time, and then you would have like 3-4 workshops, for example. You would be meeting with customers, you would be taking input in the workshop, everyone would be happy. And then you would go back to your job and do things, come back to next workshop, present things, and then adjusting things, going back, doing things, and then coming back. And after that, you would have a prototype after 6 weeks. But now we are doing the same thing, but in a faster rate. Because we are working as a team with the customer inside same room, doing same kind of stuff. All this iteration happens within 15 minutes.
That's like mind blown. I mean, I was mind blown when I was like trying the first time, even some of those tools individually. Like, okay, I mean, let's try to create a prototype, and it's like, okay, 1 minute, and I have like something visually presentable, and then I like, okay, let's just put all the customer visits in and let's see what happens. And then I had like 40 different versions of different things. I was like, and I remember before we were actually discussing with the customer that, hey, it would be actually beneficial us to work together rather than separately. And when we saw, I remember still the meeting, that was like one of the weeklies with the customer. We used to be working like so, and showing that, and they were like, is this created by AI? All this, and suddenly it's like, there's so many things that I can't like cope with 40 different prototype versions. So could you just show me this bit of information, or how AI translated this bit of information, like profitability. Could you show me how the profitability of the thing actually shows through? And then when we showed a couple of those pieces, then already the customer is saying that, hey, this actually kind of brings me thinking of these type of things that they weren't even thinking before. Yeah. And then I realized that now this is value.
Yeah, because value. Previously, of course, the first thought, what took 6 weeks earlier now takes 15 minutes over the savings. Somebody starts thinking. Yeah. So we have like 100-fold savings, but it's not like that because now you have more time. You can make multiple prototypes. You can bounce around. You can iterate with the customer. You can suddenly create 12 prototypes and say, customer, which one of these looks good to you? And they said, okay, this is great. There's something I like. Okay, let's combine them. How do you like it now? And you are starting like new things and like you are much, instead of like saving time, you are much more productive and you are going to the next level. Instead of doing one thing, you are doing 1,000 things and choosing the best one from there.
Yeah, I also feel that the potential actually is what is the greatest benefit, not the actual kind of, as you said, time savings. And also like the thinking that if the customer wants to kind of direct the prototyping with some higher level goal, like, okay, let's introduce a new goal, you can actually do that. You can generate straight away all the different variations of that goal. So even changing goals or trying out things like on a higher level, higher abstraction level than before, I think that's possible. And imagine that you will, okay, let's take next 6 weeks of workshopping, just to bring your new goal into the
and
picture.
You can start thinking that what are the goals? What is the actual thing we are doing here? And you are taking like measurements, KPIs, and start wondering, going through that, okay, if we do that thing, will it make things better? But what if we try? And what if is one of the basic things here. Earlier, what if would be like, okay, interesting question. We don't have time for that. We don't have budget for that, maybe in the next iteration or next phase of the project. But now it's like, what if you can suddenly start like taking things and all the like boring parts. It's like you are taking data models and you are taking out, okay, my data model has 100 rows and it has like 10 parameters and even typing them in and so on. That took like 15 minutes is nothing, it's like a couple of hours thing. But now you have AI, you have your like helper doing things that, okay, then you can say that, okay, give me data model in here. Here it is.
It's just there.
Yeah, but it's like, it's missing these things. Can you make it again? Here it is.
It's there.
Yeah, and then the client says, but okay, it's missing another thing and that shouldn't be there. No problem, we are changing that. And you can do instant iteration. Now it looks good. And now we can give that to the next AI saying that, okay, here's this data thing. Based on this, create me a concept. And then, here's concept. And then you can instantly try it out. Okay, you can we have, in the industry, we have this thing called laughing versions. And now we are able to do laughing versions. So you've got, okay, let's see what it looks like. And then we can say, okay, this is horrible.
Yeah.
Back to the drawing board. But no matter, we have lost 2 minutes.
Yeah, actually, I think in the previous world where we were not able to use these tools, it was like so much sunken cost that, everybody's like, yeah, we should do this differently, but we kind of cannot. Yeah. So let's wait for the next, project or something to actually fix all the minor issues that might be actually very pivotal for the whole thing. And now we can actually just do it.
Yeah. So, of course, when working with AI, this leads. You can go quite deep into the rabbit hole and suddenly you can start like iterating small things and you are going the wrong directions and so on. But that's what humans are for. That's why we are in the same room and that's what our hive mind is doing. That's why we have the client here and that's why we humans are there to tell AI, okay, don't get too excited. Right. Let's go back and think like.
Yeah, actually, I also felt that in the room, also remotely, actually, we got the same kind of feeling that we can move in the different abstraction levels, and AI can easily lead to, as you said, rabbit holes. And so I think that there's a natural need for the human to actually kind of direct and choose at what level should we work on the goal level, or like which of the concepts we should go for, or should be like, okay, here's the actual concept, let's work on that concept, individual concept level, or even the or the fields of the data model. But so I feel that that's interesting, and we can actually work on those levels as we wish. There's no like, but we can't go yet there. I remember, for instance, once that somebody said in the team that, but we cannot create the user interface since we don't have like specifications. Well, we actually can. We just we tell that this is the goal. Please create a concept and
do something.
Yeah, it's totally wrong, maybe, but still.
Yeah. But then we get specifications. This looks good. Okay, this is a great idea. Let's go forward with that one. And iteration is one of the key things. If when going back to the tools, it's like when thinking about AI, many people are now thinking that the first thought is that, okay, I have this AI tool here, and now I have to create the ultimate prompt. I'm a prompt designer, and when I create the ultimate prompt, the AI is giving me the solution,
right,
and it's there.
Yeah,
but it doesn't work that way.
That's actually very
it's like it's a waste of like capacity, it's a waste of time, it's like waste of intelligence, waste of everything. Instead of like you are going bit by bit and you are human orchestrating things and going towards the goal, and you are like one who is pulling the strings and like being adaptable and to change, and like it might be that at first when you are starting, you are not even knowing where you are going to. One of the funny things was actually AI was asking us when we were doing the specifications that, okay, what is your actual ultimate goal?
Yeah, instead of these user needs, why are you doing in the first place the whole thing? Yeah. I recall that as well.
And we were like, okay, this is kind of like good question.
Yeah, let's discuss about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we talk with client about this one?
Yeah.
And then it like sparked the discussion that, okay, what is happening? What is actually what we are doing in there? We were discussing with Tesla. Person has been working in Tesla and also working with SpaceX, and they are like having the ultimate goals.
That's really interesting how they actually put it. So they have this 1,000-year goal, and then they have like even individual key performance indicator towards that goal that they all try to optimize for.
Yep. And it's like, what was the SpaceX goal? Colonize the universe.
Yes. Yes. And then the actual key performance indicator, because they kind of understand the fact that, well, in order to do that, you need to actually get to the orbit. And then they had this goal that was so that 1 kilogram of stuff to the orbit, as cheap as possible. Yeah, and that is driving everyone. And they have like, there's like multiple teams working on this from multiple perspectives, and their prototype is like rocket.
Yeah, and it's like they are starting, like their day starts, they are like taking a look at the goal. Okay, our goal, get stuff to the orbit as cheaply as possible. What can we do today? How can we shave off this little bit of like cost? They know that we are not able to solve this immediately, but maybe we can do small changes. And then after a day, they have a success. Okay, we have shaved off 1 kilogram from our rocket, and now it's a little bit lighter.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy that they truly like incrementally kind of and iteratively go there. Yeah. Kind of every day. It was like every 12 hours they have, and this was also with Tesla. It's the same kind of thinking. Even the application is different.
Yeah, and within their cars as well. So it's like they told that they have like direct connections to their like the building lines so that the next car that comes out, that has our changes. So it's a little bit different than the previous car. And then we can measure that, okay, is this better? Just like rockets. Every rocket they are launching is a little bit better than the previous one. And that is that is why they don't mind if their rockets explode.
Yeah, because that's part of the process.
Yeah, these are the prototypes. If we wouldn't explode our prototypes, we would end up having rockets all over.
Yeah, they run out of storage space for it. When taking that to the software, like our kind of world, I think that it's very close to kind of content delivery thinking and even those practices. But like I remember that we just had this one day with customer, and we had that conversation that should we take this already? Like take this and gain feedback, not only from single client representative, but like from wider audience. And we were kind of thinking that we could actually do it, though we didn't. But just kind of thinking.
Yeah. So what happened within that day was that we decided that okay, this is the day. Let's do a product selector.
Yeah.
So the client project is like we are doing an ERP and we are doing a pricing tool there. Yeah. Of course, pricing tool contains products and it contains services and whatever. So let's do a product selector. And then what do we need? We need a data model. So we asked our AI, give us a data model. It had previous knowledge because we have been using the AI previously. It has knowledge of all our documentation, what we have been doing previously, what we have been chatting about and so on. Give me a data model. Then it, just like we talked before, it gave us a data model. Client was commenting like, okay, let's change it. Let's put something there. The AI didn't understand this, so please explain how it goes. And then we changed things. And then after 15 minutes, we had pretty good data model.
Yeah.
And then next to the AI, okay, based on this data model, create us a prompt that we can give to our user interface building AI to create that one. And that was interesting because now we had AIs talking to each other.
So
one AI was giving us a prompt. We gave that to the user interface building tool, and that gave us user interface choices. And then we took a look of those. Okay, this one looks great. Yeah. Let's go forward. And then we had our first product tool prototype.
Yeah. Then we started driving the actual implementation already. And I remember that we kind of asked that, okay, if there's such a price tool selector with this type of data model and user interface, please generate a couple of acceptance tests for it. And then please make them like automated so that it's like test code already. And then when we have the test code, of course, it doesn't compile. So you need to actually ask it to generate the implementation code to pass the test code. And it was actually surprising. I mean, that was also kind of another 15 minutes. And once we had that done, both the data model, user interface, and the application with the test code, we were like half an hour. And we were like, was that it? Kind of, we were like pondering that, okay, I mean, most of the time we were actually, like, as you said, like moving stuff from AI to AI with human intervention, and then also, of course, moving all the stuff to the editors and the environments where we want to run this stuff. But it was actually, for me, it was kind of realizing that, okay, my next question is this sustainable? Can we like keep on doing this way, like kind of forever?
Of course, this was prototyping, and this was like first part of the project where we were like designing things and doing like planning and iterating with customer and so on. At this point, when we are recording this, we are around half point of Twin project, not even there. So we still have a production ahead of us. And it's like in the production where we need to create actually high quality software.
Yeah, we can't just...
So it's like there will be multiple tools and maybe things are changing a little bit, but it's like even now I'm quite confident that as in the prototyping and design phase, we have had such increase in productivity and such increase in doing things and such superpowers. I'm sure we are having same kinds of things already into actual production.
Yeah, because I already started kind of thinking that, hey, could we just analyze the current production and then feed back that what are the things that we should actually be doing, what are the things that we should be building, and then building those with the help of these tools. And then like I don't see big difference of like, because we had this one acceptance test testing the functionality, it should be able to help us to generate also like non-functional tests and requirements, like okay, make it past the OWASP 10 security criteria, like because we can basically provide as much context as we go along the journey. Of course, I still feel that as we also had that, we had this human kind of supervision and kind of directing the process. So we need to have that knowledge in order to validate any of that, so that we don't end up like situation just copy pasting like 10,000 of lines of code.
Doing what AI is telling us to do.
Which is also another interesting topic.
Yeah, this is like actual findings from there. One of the important ones. Is it like, are you doing what AI is telling you to do? For example, you are getting a piece of code, you are copy pasting it to the editor and you are trying to run it. Then you get an error message and you ask, okay, it says this, what do I do now? And suddenly you know that AI is like your father telling do this, and then okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but AI is telling me to do things, and hopefully it goes well. Or is it you who are telling AI what to do, that you are giving it tasks, it giving input, that okay, iterate a little bit and I want to see different kinds of things, and you are taking the lead.
This is actually interesting finding that we saw both behaviors actually within our team as well. And different individuals actually being keen on kind of going either way, like either being the father or here's the father.
And it's of course depending on the situation. At some point it's good to have like AI do stuff for you, but it's like one of the concrete instructions you have to always keep in mind is that okay, who's driving right now? Is it AI or is it me or is it us?
Yeah.